Hey, my name is Manny Faces. You are watching the bee shine. Growing up musically, my father was a big jazz and blues guy. A lot of doo-wop, so a lot of CBS 101 and those kind of joints, and a lot of Count Basie and that kind of Bo Diddley and B.B. King. So I got into music early because my dad was a audiophile along those lines. I guess I kind of caught the bug. I migrated into listening to whatever was R&B at the time, and of course then hip hop came into the mix. And I always tell this story about how I really got taken over by hip hop. So you'd only get hip hop a couple hours a week, Friday, Saturday nights. Mr. Magic, Marley Marl in New York City, Red Alert. And I used to go over to my man Craig's house, and Craig would be in the basement. We'd be playing ColecoVision and all that jazz, and Red Alert show would be on. And I remember it was My Melody by Rakim. Man, because it sounded so different. There was some hip hop. Hip hop was making noise, but when you heard My Melody, it sounded so different. It sounded so just crazy, damn near spiritual. And that really caught my ear, and I started really gravitating towards the music that was coming out at the time. I mean, I did everything besides, I wasn't a b-boy and I wasn't a graph writer or anything, but I mean, I started as a DJ. I guess, I started collecting DJ equipment and getting records. My father had all these records and vinyl. I still have tons of vinyl to this day. So I started getting into that. I started DJing, learning, DJing on my own, going out and getting involved in that. That kind of led into production. I started getting like beat machines and, samplers and looping and gravitated towards production. So I touched and I rapped for a long time as well. I had a few rap names that'll go unmentioned, but so I touched kind of all those aspects of the artistry, and then from that being involved in the scene and just being at shows and being at showcases and seeing things that are going on and traveling to this. I'm from Long Island, so I used to come in the city all the time and hit up spots, and so I had those aspects of hip hop music and culture under my belt, so when I got into journalism in the real world, the 9-to-5 world, later on in more recent years, it's kind of the combination of those things. I still kind of, rap every now and then for fun. I still make remixes, and I got known for doing remixes for a while. But now it's kind of the journalism. I see so many people. I discovered so many things. I wanted to start telling their stories. And it's kind of it's an amalgamation of everything I know about being an artist, trying to make it, trying to get your name out there, trying to get your craft out there, and the journalism that I do professionally, to combine those and start my media outlets. My dad was a kind of a traditionalist, a stickler. Hip hop has no melody, and it's not real music, and so I always tried to get through to him that there was more to it than that. There was more to it than the simplistic stuff you might have heard. My mother was always supportive. She always let it be known that she understood my musical interests. She understood what I like to do. And I remember there was a time that I was depressed, going through some personal stuff. And my brother from another was in the house staying with us. And weeks had passed. And one day she heard me back on the beats and making music. And he told me later, she said to him, he's back. So she was very supportive, and she knew that music meant a lot to me. And it was very therapeutic, and it's just always been a part of what I do, so it is who I am. When I started exploring the idea of putting together a media outlet for New York area hip-hop music and culture, it was because so much of the industry had focused to other parts of the country. New York and LA being, kind of big cornerstones at one point, but, Houston had taken over, Atlanta was starting to pop up, and there was a lot of talk about New York, kind of lost its luster in terms of hip-hop. And, I felt, we had some pride, being from New York, we're the Mecca, we're the birthplace. And, just investigating, starting to go around and reintroducing myself to the scene, I realized that there was a lot going on that wasn't being covered, that wasn't being looked at by the media, the hip-hop media at large. So I started looking at it was supposed to be a print magazine, but it was right at the end of print. So my timing was bad there. But I knew some things about online publishing, and so I investigated. I researched. I built a site, kind of a couple of iterations before it really took hold and became what it was. But it was always about Birthplace. It was always about New York being the birthplace of hip hop, and the scene not being dead. Hip hop is not dead in New York. Never was, and never will be. But nobody was saying that, and everyone was saying the opposite. So while everyone was calling us lifeless, somebody had to come up and say, nah. So I did. First and foremost, it's about telling stories and finding like amazing people doing, generally amazing work, amazing artists, being involved in their craft and expression, and finding and discovering people who are artistic and progressive, but within hip hop, realizing that there's tons more cultural aspects that are being ignored that I've discovered or come across, and small pockets that people know about, is fascinating, and it's inspirational. So I'm constantly inspired. Some really particular, specific things that have happened. I mean, I've gone to France because of hip hop, covering hip hop as a journalist, as an independent guy that just started a magazine on my own without, any corporate backing, as a true independent voice. They brought me out to France. I spent 5 days in France covering a hip hop festival out there, and it was amazing, like just a great time. And they really respect hip hop music and culture. They had all the elements represented. I went to Norway, last year, just by covering hip hop with a journalistic state of mind, integrity, and trying to do it like a journalist, not like a fly-by-night hip hop site looking for clicks and advertising. I'm just trying to tell stories, and it's been really inspirational. From a business branding level, I'd like to make sure that we are the sort of new gatekeepers. Gatekeepers have fallen off in hip hop. They've all become kind of compromised by corporations and agendas. I really want to be an independent voice for, our region. I look at it as a dialect, and sort of, you have like indigenous tribes that if they're not exposed to the rest of the world, they're going to literally die out, and that voice will be gone, and, that cultural impact will be gone. And I kind of felt like New York area hip hop music and culture needed to be protected. So if I could have if I had some part in bringing to light some artist or some organization or some aspect of hip hop music and culture that was in New York area that would have otherwise gone unnoticed, and help bring it to light to be enjoyed and respected by people outside of our region, or more people inside of then I did my job. I'm telling people stories. I'm just trying to get people, the shine they deserve.